Hattie Jackson was last seen on July 21, 1961, in Washington, D.C. That afternoon, she went to Rock Creek Park with her older brother and some friends to play and swim. While they were in the creek, a police officer warned them that the water was polluted and they were not allowed to swim there. After the officer left, an unknown man sitting nearby offered to drive the children to a cleaner swimming spot about 2 miles away. The kids declined and continued playing. Shortly after, Hattie vanished. No one saw her leave, and she has never been heard from again. Witnesses later reported seeing 2 young men helping a girl matching Hattie's description into a dull blue or gray older model Chrysler, possibly a Plymouth, with yellow license plates near the park. Tracking dogs followed Hattie, sent to that same area. The driver of the car matched the description of the man who made the earlier offer. A white male, 30 to 40 years old, with a deep tan, dark brown slicked back hair, about 5 feet 9 inches, muscular build, wearing a white shirt, gray pants, black belt, and sunglasses. He has never been identified. Despite extensive searches, no trace of Hattie was ever found. For 66 years, her disappearance remains unsolved. Shelley Sykes was last seen on the night of May 24, 1986, as she left her job as a server at Gato's Seafood Restaurant on the Galveston, Texas beachfront. The 19-year-old college student was home for the summer, staying with her family in Texas City, about 15 miles from her workplace. In the early hours of May 25th, around 2 a.m., Shelley's blue 1980 Ford Pinto was found abandoned and stuck in the mud off an Interstate 45 access road, just south of the Galveston Causeway. The driver's side window had been shattered, and bloodstains were found on the door and driver's seat. Shelley was gone. More than a year later, in June 1987, a man named John Robert King called police from a motel in El Paso. After a failed attempt at taking his own life, he confessed that he and an accomplice, Gerald Peters Worst, had abducted and murdered Shelley in 1986. King claimed they buried her body near his home in San Leon, Texas. Blood found in Shelley's car was later confirmed to be his. King initially offered to disclose the burial location in exchange for a reduced sentence, but later refused to cooperate. In 1988, both King and Zworst were convicted of kidnapping Shelley Sykes and sentenced to life in prison. Zworst gave a conflicting account, stating he had been under the influence of PCP or crack cocaine and passed out before anything happened. Investigators believe that Shelley may have encountered King while driving on the highway. Witnesses said she may have made an obscene gesture toward him after he began harassing her, which may have led him to run her off the road. Shelley reportedly sustained minor injuries in the process. Witnesses later observed both men either helping or possibly forcing Shelley into King's brown and tan Chevrolet pickup truck. The men claimed they were taking her to a hospital, but other witnesses told investigators it appeared Shelley was being taken against her will. King accused Zworst of sexually assaulting Shelley with a beer bottle and then burying her alive, an allegation Zworst denied, insisting King acted alone. In 1990, Zworst was offered immunity from a murder charge if he helped locate Shelley's remains. Under hypnosis, he drew a map marking a field in San Leon where he claimed she had been buried. A search of the area turned up a petite white blouse. Shelley's family confirmed it was one of her handmade garments. She was a skilled seamstress, but forensic testing was inconclusive. Authorities believe her body had once been at the site but was later moved. John Robert King died in prison of natural causes in 2015 at age 58. Zworst remains incarcerated and became eligible for parole in 2017. Despite confessions and years of investigation, Shelley Sykes has never been found. Her case remains unsolved. On the weekend of February 7, 1999, Paul Skiba was spending a scheduled visitation with his 9-year-old daughter Sarah at his home in Thornton, Colorado. Sarah lived in Granby with her mother, Michelle Russell, who had full custody following her divorce from Paul. Paul owned a moving company called Tough Movers, based in Westminster, Colorado. On the evening of February 7th, around 6 p.m., Paul, Sarah, and his employee Lorenzo Chivers were last seen in Morrison, Colorado. They were reportedly completing a moving job. After that, none of them were ever seen or heard from again. When Sarah failed to return home after the weekend, her mother reported her missing. At first, investigators suspected Paul might have abducted his daughter, possibly with Chivers' help, in the context of a custody dispute. A warrant was even issued for Paul's arrest. But everything changed nearly 3 weeks later. Michelle Russell contacted authorities after locating one of the company's vehicles, a white 1978 Chevrolet Tough Movers truck with red crescents painted on the sides, abandoned in the Westminster Company parking lot. The truck had not been parked in the usual position Paul used, and something was clearly wrong. Upon inspection, investigators found the truck had been shot twice and was smeared with blood. Inside, they discovered a piece of human scalp with hair still attached. More hair was found on the fender. Blood and shell casings were also found nearby. Chivers' personal car was still in the lot, but Paul's vehicle turned up later in Denver. DNA testing confirmed the worst. The blood on the truck's door and ground belonged to Paul, the hair matched Sarah's, and the scalp fragment was also identified as Paul's. Blood found outside the truck matched both Paul and Sarah. At this point, authorities reclassified the case from a potential abduction to a suspected triple homicide. All three were officially considered endangered missing. Several key items from the moving truck were also missing, including a 3 by 10-foot metal loading ramp, moving blankets, and tie-down straps, leading investigators to believe those items may have been used to help dispose of the bodies. Authorities theorized that Paul, Sarah, and Lorenzo were ambushed and murdered after returning the truck to the company lot. Paul is believed to have been the intended target, with Sarah and Lorenzo tragically caught in the crossfire. It's suspected that the killer or killers used the moving truck to transport and dispose of the bodies. Despite extensive searches, including dredging multiple lakes in the Denver area, no remains have ever been recovered. In August 1999, there were reports that an arrest was imminent, but nothing ever materialized, and to this day, no one has been charged in connection with the disappearances. Paul, Sarah, and Lorenzo remain missing, and their case remains unsolved. Rebecca Alsop was last seen on February 17, 2017, in Williamsville, Missouri. That afternoon, a friend stopped by her residence, a camping trailer on her husband, Craig Allen Wood's, parents' property, to check on her. When the friend arrived around 1 p.m., Rebecca appeared visibly distressed. She was shaking, crying, and told her friend that Craig had stolen money from her and destroyed her phone by cutting up the SIM card, which she showed as proof. She also revealed bruises on her left cheek and her arm, saying Craig had dragged her off the bed by her hair. Rebecca borrowed her friend's phone to call someone, saying she was scared and that Craig had taken her money. Later that evening, a man visited the trailer and saw both Rebecca and Craig there. When he returned the next day, Rebecca was gone, but alarmingly, he noticed her walker was burning in the property's burn barrel. Rebecca has never been seen or heard from again. According to multiple sources, Rebecca and Craig had a volatile, abusive relationship. Around the time of her disappearance, she reportedly told someone over the phone that Craig had been caught with drugs and wanted her to act as an informant. She claimed he had threatened to kill her if she refused. She asked the person to come get her, but by the time he arrived, she was gone. That witness later told police that his son, who had been present around the time Rebecca vanished, was allegedly forced by Craig to help dispose of her body. When questioned, the son refused to name names but admitted others had borrowed his car and returned it with blood and hair inside. He said he cleaned the car and later sold it. The new owner recalled that the vehicle was extremely clean when purchased, but it eventually broke down and was crushed at a scrapyard. Another disturbing account came from a different witness, who said that in 2016, Craig offered him 3 cars, a motorcycle, and half of Rebecca's life insurance policy in exchange for killing her. Craig had also asked the man what would happen if methamphetamine bong water were injected into someone's legs. The man responded that it could be fatal. Not long after that conversation, Rebecca was hospitalized with severe infections and had both legs amputated. During her stay, Craig tried to have her removed from life support, but the hospital refused, stating it went against her wishes and that Craig couldn't legally prove he was her husband at the time. According to the same witness, Craig later admitted that he had gotten Rebecca high and injected her with bong water, but it didn't kill her. He also bragged about knowing places where he could hide a body that would never be found. Another witness, who shared a jail cell with Craig, said he once saw Craig crying and saying he shouldn't have killed Becky. In July 2019, Craig Wood was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree assault in connection with Rebecca's case. The assault charge stemmed from the 2016 incident involving the injection of bong water. Investigators believe Rebecca was ultimately killed by a blow to the head with an ashtray. However, in September 2019, prosecutors dropped the charges, citing insufficient evidence at the time, but stated their intent to refile them in the future. To this day, Rebecca Alsop remains missing. In July 1999, 12-year-old Heather Cullorn was staying with family friends Dana Madden and Christopher Herbert in Richmond Heights, Missouri. She had been living at their apartment in the 1600 block of Yale Avenue for about a week, helping care for their 2-month-old baby. On the night of July 14th into the early hours of July 15th, Heather was alone in the apartment with the infant. Madden was working an overnight shift, and Herbert was reportedly not at home. Around 2 a.m., a neighbor witnessed something unsettling. An unidentified man was seen leaving the apartment carrying a child wrapped in a blanket. The child appeared to be about Heather's size. The man has never been identified. By 5 a.m., police were called to the scene. Inside the apartment, they found the baby alone and crying, but Heather was gone. A white floral comforter was also missing. Investigators discovered a small amount of blood in the home, later confirmed by DNA testing to belong to Heather. She has never been seen or heard from again. Police quickly ruled out the possibility of a random act of violence. They believed the person responsible likely knew either Heather, her family, or the people she was staying with. Their investigations soon focused on a methamphetamine ring operating in the area. Evidence of a meth lab was discovered in the Madden/Herbert apartment, and investigators believe Heather may have accidentally witnessed illegal drug activity in the garage. Authorities suspect she was abducted and likely murdered to prevent her from speaking out. Though they have identified a suspect, that person has not been publicly named and no charges have been filed. In April 2000, 9 months after Heather vanished, her mother, Christine Cullorn, confronted Dana Madden at a St. Louis 7-Eleven where Madden worked. Christine was arrested after a heated argument, but she insisted Madden and Herbert knew more than they were saying. Herbert had reportedly given conflicting accounts of where he was when Heather disappeared. Madden, however, had a verified alibi. She was at work. Christine remained an active voice in her daughter's case from the beginning and was never considered a suspect. Until her death in 2017 at the age of 52, she continued to believe Heather would someday return home. At the time of her disappearance, Heather Cullorn was a student at Blow Middle School in South St. Louis. Her case remains unsolved. Thanks for watching. See you next time.